You just flexed on someone. You landed a sick combo. You're feeling yourself. And then... clearly outplayed. You might be salty, but you're thinking about this wrong. The Angel platform is a comeback mechanic, like V-Trigger in Street Fighter V, like Rage in Ultimate, like X-Factor in Marvel, but way less broken. So, I'm going to outline what the Angel platform is, why it's a comeback mechanic, and how it affects the flow of competitive play. Then I will discuss the metagame of playing with and around Angel platform invincibility. Finally, I will discuss some common counterarguments and potential solutions. Smash was the first party brawler and platform fighter. Players died by being knocked off the stage and falling into the blast zone. The Angel platform was the way characters returned to the stage. In Smash 64, the character can stay on the platform for up to 5 seconds or 300 frames of invincibility, and then upon leaving, they are granted 2 seconds or 120 frames of invincibility. The mechanic has been in every Smash game since, with a slight tweak in Ultimate. Sakurai did play fighting games, so I wouldn't be surprised if this change was inspired by the versus genre. In versus games, characters would come in once the previous character had died and had to deal with an incoming mix-up while in the corner. Needless to say, this is very strong and can cause a large amount of snowballing for the player's advantage. In between stocks, Smash attempts to mitigate snowballing by giving the incoming character advantage.
What a regrab by Levin. Don't even let it attack.
It's an inherent comeback mechanic. Comeback mechanics are prevalent in many games in general, and in fighting games there are mixed opinions on them. There are comeback mechanics that incentivize interaction, like building meter when receiving damage. And then there are comeback mechanics which encourage negative aspects for competitive play, such as high variance, like Rage in Smash 4. Sakurai may not have thought the advantage could potentially swing so much with the Angel platform. The Angel platforms allows players to have a few seconds of invincibility to mix up their opponent. While other players can avoid this through various methods, it doesn't change my opinion on the mechanic. I'm a competitive player in Melee and Project M, and in those games at least, having a few seconds to invincibly mix up your opponent is way too strong, and would feel out of place in other fighting games.
Get the fuck away from this guy.
Once again, I am going to focus on Melee and Project M, since I have the most experience in these games. I wanted to see how much Revival platform invincibility led to an interaction win at the top level of Melee. In statistics, there is a way to extrapolate patterns from a dataset. However, this is a YouTube video about Super Smash Bros., so I'm just gonna wing it. I asked Zane what he thought the best tournament of the year was. He said Smash Summit 10. Back before Summit 11 happened, I guess. Then, I watched top 8 from that tournament and counted the amount of interactions dictated by Angel platform invincibility. I classified interactions in 6 different ways. It was either a 0, where invincibility led to death.
I think
That's what I'm gonna change.
Ooh, okay.
1, where invincibility led to a combo. 2, invincibility led to a stray hit. 3, invincibility led to strong positioning or pressure. 4, invincibility led to nothing significant. Or 5, the interaction was non-existent. This was due to a rest punish or a player SDing. After manually counting all the interactions, I was given a dataset of 229 with very detailed descriptions. However, there were some things that were hard to classify. Some interactions could definitely count as multiple categories, but I just categorized everything as it best fit. For example, how would you classify this? Wizzy corners Ginger with invincibility, and then covers his roll with a stomp. This is solidly a case of positioning from Angel platform leading to death, as Ginger wouldn't have retreated this much if Wizzy wasn't invincible. Yet he technically didn't use invincibility to get this combo. There were so many different interactions that I'm sure I messed up a few times. For that reason, I've linked this data in the description so that you can take a look at it. After removing the interactions from rest punishes and SDs, we ended up with the following data. At Smash Summit 10, 6.3% of interactions from Angel platform invincibility led to a death combo.
This was a big turnaround.
Ooh.
Bloop.
It's right back to you. Right back at you, buddy.
Yep. Nice.
8.5% of interactions led to a normal combo,
Yeah.
26.5% led to a stray hit, and 25.1% led to a strong position. Then we have a solid amount of angel platform interaction leading to no benefit, 33.6%. However, just because the reward based on a 1 interaction is such high variance based on DI and percent, I decided to make another chart combining all the punish categories into one. And we got this. 41.3% of angel platform invincibility interactions led to a hit. This ends up looking like around 2/3 of angel platform interactions lead to a hit or positioning, while a third led to no benefit. What does this show? I think it shows that angel plats have a pretty high correlation with hits and positioning, even at the highest level. Whether you believe this is fair or this can skew the game state is up to interpretation. There's limitations to this study. As said before, this is not a research piece, I just wanted to make a video. For example, it's tournament, so people are more likely to mess up. This is also the highest level of play. Mango isn't going to be hit by your scrubby bear from the angel plat, but it could happen at other levels of play, and top players hit harder and SDI harder. It's different. Certain stages may play a role in how angel plat is used. On a stage like FD, characters have fewer movement options to avoid invincibility, and when they get hit, it would have a higher likelihood of a stronger punish in most matchups, which is another reason why FD is bad. Certain characters have an easier time dealing with invincibility, see Hungry Bugs. And certain players may have an easier or worse time dealing with invincibility. At the highest level of play, players have gotten really good at using their invincibility to pick off a defensive habit. The counterplay for avoiding angel platform invincibility has evolved in 3 main ways. 1. Have tricky or non-interactive enough movement to avoid your opponent entirely for a few seconds. There's a few variants to this. Some characters can take to the sky, some characters will be on the ground. 2. Platform movement, or shielding on top plat, especially with the light shield. This works quite well against floatier characters. Or 3. Counter their invincibility by waiting out on ledge, and try to avoid interaction for the duration of angel platform invincibility. But I think there are problems with all of these methods. For method number 1, I actually love it when it works. This is the coolest way to deal with invincibility, and I like it a lot. When it works, though. When it doesn't, you look like an idiot.
Start. I think he got caught without a jump.
There's something very satisfying about avoiding an invincible opponent, and I think with a significant skill advantage, this can be done quite easily. And it's not like this is an optimal solution. Very often in the competitive levels of play, you will see players getting hit during this time. Avoiding an invincible dash dancing Marth, or an aggressive Fox, or Donkey Kong is hard, especially when the threat of the punish on hit is so prevalent.
Hold on! Oh!
Shielding on top plat can be pretty hard to combat for characters with low air mobility. Luigi, for example, can have a hard time dealing with this. However, a few counterplay methods have developed, like for example, waiting out the movement one has on a platform and wave landing onto grab. It's not a foolproof method for avoiding interaction. Ledge invincibility is sort of a band-aid solution. Ledge invincibility is extremely strong in PM and melee, so using invincibility to counter invincibility makes sense. You will see characters like Spaceys or Sheik using this quite easily. However, some characters, like Melee Peach, cannot utilize invincibility as well due to her lack of ledge options.
Better than 1 in 5 million.
Oh, Toad.
This leaves her extremely susceptible to characters like Puff or Marth in between stocks, as she has pretty slow grounded mobility, and if she takes to the air, those characters can pretty easily counter. Because PM has normalized ledge options between characters, it ends up being less of a problem, but it's still a band-aid solution, in my opinion. The fundamental way to deal with it is avoiding interaction. There is variance in how characters can use and avoid invincibility. Characters with low movement options or ways of ledge stalling are generally poor at avoiding it. Characters with strong movement options get multiple attempts to mix up their opponents. Characters with a strong punish can wait for a single defensive habit and then stock. For these reasons, I think Revival Platform Invincibility is a bit too strong as a comeback mechanic during competitive play, and it could be tweaked. Here are some common counterarguments. It is in the game. Yes, everything in the game is good, long live Smash. Of course, we now know that certain things are good and bad for competitive play. See my FD video. There's counterplay. Yeah, I know, and I've outlined it. However, I don't think the counterplay is necessarily good or healthy for the state of the game. Even the coolest counterplay, which is movement, mix-up, steering, invincibility, is quite risky, and I'd rather that state didn't exist. What do you mean? It's not as strong as other comeback mechanics. Comeback mechanics aren't inherently bad or good, but not every comeback mechanic needs to be at the level of level 3 X Factor Virgil. I don't know. Characters all experience Angel Platform invincibility equally. As outlined before, it doesn't mean they can use it equally, and it just happens to buff the top tiers even more. Camping happens, regardless. This is true. All the methods I've outlined for avoiding Angel Platform also work in a real match to avoid interaction. However, we have to ask ourselves if the benefit of the Angel Platform is worth the cost. Do we want the match to stall for 2 seconds when it could be sped up? And is it fair to give any characters the ability to end stocks while they are invincible? If someone plays defensive and wins an interaction, that is all said and good. But playing defensive out of a requirement to not interact lest you get messed up isn't great. Alright, so we've gone into how characters use it, the metagame around it, and possible counter-arguments. Comeback mechanics are hard to balance, and developers are still coming up with ways to even the playing field. Let's get into how we could change it. Fundamentally, there's 3 possibilities. We keep the mechanic exists and it's tweaked, or we get rid of it and it no longer exists. If it doesn't exist, a good way to think about it is how Dragon Ball FighterZ fixed the Marvel tag-in. When a character respawns, they both reset to neutral and neither have advantage. This has been done before in modes like Chess Melee, and I think it's an interesting take, if the goal is to reset to a neutral position after a stock. If we keep the Angel Platform, your first thought might be, let's get rid of invincibility as soon as someone leaves the platform. However, I do not want to see the meta where someone dies and then gets spawn camped by Zane's Marth. So this isn't viable.
But let me tell you a thing or two about edge guards.
Let's consider the existing components of the Angel Platform we can change. The conditions of the invincibility, the duration of the invincibility, and the position of the Angel Platform. Conditions for invincibility can be explained like so. If you do X, X being a certain action, you lose invincibility. Simple enough, right? Conditions for invincibility have actually been addressed in other platform fighters. I like what Rivals does with invincibility. Essentially, when somebody attempts a parry, they lose invincibility. This is an attempt to solve some problems for the Rivals meta, but I like the precedent. Duration. This is self-explanatory. In Melee, Angel Platform invincibility lasts for 2 seconds upon leaving the platform. Ultimate has the duration of invincibility based on the amount of time somebody has spent on the Angel Platform. This doesn't really address any of the problems I've suggested, so I'm not going to touch on it too much. Duration is a fun mechanic. How much invincibility does someone need? 120 frames is too much, 0 frames is too little. What is an okay amount of invincibility? This ends up being a different question depending on what you want from invincibility. If you like having the mix-up opportunity, maybe a small reduction to 60 frames would be okay. Then again, if you're like me and you want no invincible mix-ups to be possible, but then maybe you want it reduced even more. Positioning is also fun. Consider somebody dies on the left side of Battlefield. Should they spawn on the left side? I would argue no. They should spawn on the opposite side, so that the opponent wouldn't have to deal with an invincible opponent immediately. And should they spawn in the air? I think no again. While it varies from character to character, I think spawning on the ground would allow for quicker access to options and more control. Does somebody need invincibility if they're spawning on the opposite side of someone? No getting spawn camped. There's a lot to be done with positioning and duration, in my opinion. We can reduce the amount of invincibility and put the platform in a grounded location so that airtime isn't a part of invincibility. There's also so many variations we can look at here. Here's my suggested solution. A grounded revival platform with 10 to 20 frames of invincibility. Only a Fox Ledge Dash's worth of invincibility would allow characters to safely reset and not get spawn camped without having to deal with a large amount of invincible mix-ups. But I'm no genius. This is just one way. I'm just a guy who thinks about this game too much. There are plenty of ways to tweak this mechanic. The revival platform is a staple of Smash, and I think it is a fun party mechanic. No one likes it when their friend is winning all the time at Smash. Might as well attack them with invincibility. But the way it manifests in the competitive meta ends up being non-interactive, and I definitely think it could be tweaked. With the correct tweaking, I think the mechanic ends up not being as powerful as a comeback mechanic. Until then, I will be ledge camping Invincibility as Sheik and throwing shit up in the air as Diddy Kong. What are your thoughts on Revival platform Invincibility? Let me know in the comments below. And shoutouts to this one guy who was against the Angel platform in 2007. He's clearly a genius. This video would not be possible without all of our patrons. Till next time, peace.